What if you got everything you thought you wanted and discovered it still wasn't enough? The career, the money, the house, the recognition, the experiences, the knowledge. What if you finally reached the place you spent years trying to get to and quietly asked yourself, is this it? Welcome to Ecclesiastes. And if you've ever wondered what the point of all of this is, this may be one of the most relatable books in the entire Bible. Ecclesiastes doesn't avoid the uncomfortable questions, it asks them. Why do we work so hard for things we eventually leave behind? Why do good and bad things happen to both wise and foolish people? Why does life move so quickly? And if everything eventually ends, what actually makes a life meaningful? Ecclesiastes begins with a startling declaration: vanity of vanities, all is vanity. But the Hebrew idea behind vanity is important. The word is hevel or hevel, Hevel. It carries the image of vapor, breath, mist, something you can see but can't hold on to. And that image becomes one of the keys to understanding the entire book. Life is real, life is beautiful, but life is brief, and you cannot control it. Before we go any further, just some background information. Who wrote Ecclesiastes? The book introduces a main speaker, usually translated the teacher or the preacher, and he is described as a son of David and a king in Jerusalem. Traditionally, Ecclesiastes has been associated with King Solomon, whose extraordinary wisdom, wealth, building projects, and position fit much of the description in the book. However, Ecclesiastes never directly names Solomon, and many modern scholars believe the book reached its final form centuries after Solomon. So the exact authorship and date remain debated, which is true for a lot of the Bible. What isn't debated is the question Ecclesiastes wants us to wrestle with. How do you live meaningfully in a world you cannot control? Ecclesiastes isn't ultimately saying life is meaningless, so nothing matters. It is asking, if life is brief, unpredictable, and impossible to control, what actually makes it meaningful? So, the central idea of Ecclesiastes, again, the word hevel, translated as vanity, meaningless, or vapor. Life is a vapor. You cannot hold on to it, control every outcome, or make temporary things give you permanent meaning. So learn to receive life as a gift from God while remembering the one who gave it. Ecclesiastes doesn't tell us that nothing matters. It teaches us that temporary things were never meant to carry the weight of our ultimate meaning. So let's go on this quick journey through Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes repeatedly describes life as a hevel, vapor, temporary, difficult to grasp. Generations come and generations go. The sun rises and the sun sets. People build things, someone else eventually owns them. People become famous, eventually they're forgotten. And Ecclesiastes forces us to confront something our culture often encourages us to ignore. We're not going to be here forever. Think about how much of our lives can be spent trying to prove that we matter. Followers, titles, degrees, promotions, possessions, achievements. We build resumes, platforms, businesses, and reputations. None of those things are automatically wrong, but Ecclesiastes asks a haunting question. What happens when we ask temporary things to give us permanent significance? They can't. Maybe remembering that life is a vapor isn't supposed to make us depressed. Maybe it's supposed to make us intentional. If your time is limited, how do you want to spend it? The teacher conducts what almost feels like an experiment. He pursues pleasure. wealth, great projects, possessions, entertainment, knowledge, success. He essentially asks, can any of this satisfy me? And after experiencing more than most people could ever dream of having, he looks at everything he accomplished and describes it as chasing after the wind. Think about that image. Try catching the wind. You can feel it, you can chase it, but you can never hold it. That's what life becomes when we expect achievement to satisfy something it was never designed to satisfy. Woo, that's a lot. Our version sounds like once I get the job, once I make more money, once I buy the house, once I get married, once I lose the weight, once people recognize what I can do, then I'll be happy. But the finish line keeps moving. Ecclesiastes isn't saying achievement is evil, it's warning us don't turn a gift into a God, because eventually you will ask it to give you something it cannot provide. Then we reach perhaps the most famous section of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. There is a time to be born and a time to die, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to be silent and a time to speak. Life moves in seasons, and we don't get to choose all of them. That's difficult because we like control. We want to know what's next. We want timeliness. We want explanations. We want God to tell us exactly when the difficult season will end. I know I do. But Ecclesiastes tells us that God sees something we don't. He sees the whole picture. We experience life one season at a time. Some seasons are for building, others are for letting go. Some are loud, others are quiet. Some feel productive, others feel like absolutely nothing is happening. But a quiet season isn't necessarily a wasted season. And that's especially important when we're being shaped in the silence. You may not understand what God is doing in this chapter because you're trying to judge the entire story from one page. Woo, that's a lot. This is where Ecclesiastes becomes especially interesting after Proverbs. Proverbs tells us, choose wisdom. Ecclesiastes agrees. Wisdom is better than foolishness. But then Ecclesiastes adds, wisdom cannot control everything. Wise people still experience tragedy. Hardworking people don't always succeed. Good decisions don't guarantee painless lives. And eventually, both the wise person and the fool die. That doesn't make wisdom useless. It simply means wisdom was never supposed to make us sovereign. Sometimes we believe if I do everything right, everything should work out. And when it doesn't, we assume something has gone terribly wrong. I had to learn about that. But scripture is more honest than that. Job already showed us that righteous people can suffer. Proverbs showed us that wise choices generally lead us toward flourishing. And Ecclesiastes reminds us even wisdom cannot remove life's uncertainty. Faithfulness isn't a formula for controlling outcomes. So here's where Ecclesiastes surprises people. For a book known for saying everything is meaningless, it repeatedly tells us to enjoy life. Enjoy your food, enjoy your work, enjoy companionship, enjoy the days you've been given. Why? Because these ordinary things are gifts from God. This changes the message dramatically. Ecclesiastes isn't saying nothing matters. It's saying stop demanding that temporary things last forever and learn to enjoy them while they're here. Maybe we're so busy chasing the next blessing that we're missing the one sitting in front of us. The ordinary dinner, the conversation, the friend who called, the quiet morning, the work you're able to do, the people you love. The ordinary moments we overlook today may become the moments we miss tomorrow. You don't have to possess something forever. You don't have to possess something forever. Keep that in mind for it to be worth thanking God for today. Near the end of Ecclesiastes comes one of its most important instructions. Remember your Creator and notice when we're told to do it. Not someday, not when we've accomplished everything, not when we're older, not after we've exhausted every other opinion. Remember him now, because youth fades, strength fades, opportunity changes. Life moves faster than we expect. The teacher has searched everywhere for meaning and eventually points us back toward God. One of life's greatest tragedies would be spending decades building a life, only to realize we built it around things that couldn't last. Ecclesiastes asks us, what are you building your life around? Because whatever sits at the center of your life eventually shapes everything around it. So, after 12 chapters of questioning, searching, observing, and wrestling, Ecclesiastes finally lands somewhere. Fear God and keep his commandments. That's the conclusion. Not become famous, not become wealthy, not experience everything, not even understand everything. Fear God. Live knowing that your life ultimately belongs to him. Ecclesiastes also reminds us that God will bring our actions into judgment. So life being temporary doesn't mean life doesn't matter. Actually, its brevity makes how we live deeply significant. Ecclesiastes also reveals something important about God. God exists beyond the limitations that frustrate us. We see fragments. God sees the whole. We experience seasons. God stands over time. We receive gifts. God is the giver. We don't know what tomorrow holds. God does. And perhaps one of the deepest lessons of Ecclesiastes is this: you don't have to understand everything about life to receive life faithfully from God. Maybe Ecclesiastes isn't pessimistic after all. Maybe it's freeing us. You don't have to make your name last forever. You don't have to control every outcome. You don't have to squeeze ultimate meaning out of your career, your possessions, your accomplishments, or other people's approval. Life is a vapor, and that's exactly why today matters. Love people while they're here. Enjoy God's gifts while you have them. Do meaningful work without worshiping your work. Hold possessions without letting possessions hold you. Accept that some questions won't be answered in this lifetime. Remember your Creator, fear God, and live faithfully with the days you've been given. Because Ecclesiastes doesn't ultimately teach nothing matters. It teaches us everything temporary must be held with open hands, and the eternal God must remain at the center. And our journey through the wisdom books continues. Job asks, can I trust God when life doesn't make sense? Psalms taught us, bring every emotion to God. Proverbs asks, how should I live wisely? Ecclesiastes asks, what makes this brief life meaningful? And next, Song of Songs or Song of Solomon, however, it's different. Bibles have different interpretations of that. So, Song of Songs turns our attention towards something deeply human: love, desire, beauty, commitment, relationship. Ecclesiastes reminds us that life is brief, and Song of Songs reminds us that love is one of the profound gifts experienced within that brief life. From life's biggest questions, we move into one of its most intimate relationships. And that's where our journey through the Bible continues. So I will see you in the next book. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe if you so choose. And again, I will see you in Song of Songs or Songs of Solomon.